Discover how a shy nurse's amazing kindness transformed a freezing CEO's life in just one day. The snowstorm enveloped the hospital like a clammy blanket, wind howling against the glass facades as Emma braced herself for another grueling shift. With each patient she cared for, the weight of financial worries pressed deeper into her chest, constricting her spirit. She ran down the sterile halls, not a stranger to the ache in her limbs or the sting of her unshed tears, imagining how very different her life would be if she only received the recognition and support she so desperately craved. Each time she glimpsed her reflection, it showed a woman caught between self-sacrifice and unfulfilled dreams, a resolute nurse who felt like a ghost at the margins of life's grand narrative. As the clock ticked away, her soft-spoken nature had become a shield, protecting fragile remnants of hope. Patients became her family, but the comfort that brought also twisted under her skin, an unease bubbling beneath the surface. What if I pushed too hard to help them? She pondered, heart racing. What if I fail? The words looped endlessly like machinery grinding, a potent reminder that while she healed, she also bled. And yet, the truth echoed louder than her fears, she needed their hope as much as they needed her care. Like shadows slipping through the darkness of the waiting room, Jack found himself wandering through the sterile hallways in a fit of irritation, dismissive of the chaos swirling around him. He was just a CEO lost in unfamiliar territory, too busy to notice the tangled lives of those around him. But outside of his razor-sharp ambition, the bitter cold gnawed relentlessly at his self-assured facade, and he pushed through it, each step weighed down by unyielding impatience. When their paths finally crossed, the air thickened with misunderstanding. Jack scoffed at Emma's inquiry regarding his well-being, interpreting it as annoying intrusion. Emma felt it too, an impulse to shield her vulnerabilities, to bury her needs beneath the blanket of her patient's demands. They were worlds apart, her depth contrasted sharply with his surface-level concerns. Anguish flickered in both their hearts, one too proud to falter, the other too afraid to voice her truth. Before long, everything crumbled. Jack's body, once a monument to privilege, surrendered to the chill that worked its way beneath his skin. The unforgiving truth cut through the air as he collapsed, frustration morphing into vulnerability, leaving Emma no choice but to act, her intrinsic kindness surging forth in a moment that felt both foreign and familiar. A decision hung before her like a double-edged sword. She hesitated, the weight of protocols seeping into her thoughts. Is this against the rules? Can I afford this distraction? But then she caught a glimpse of his trembling breaths, and resolve surged through her veins. Emma knelt beside him, slipping her hand beneath his clammy fingers, grounding herself in their shared space. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Their worlds collided, and Emma shared her burdens in a voice as soft as falling snow, hoping he'd see the depth beneath her shyness. Jack, feeling unexpectedly raw, opened up about the empty flares of success that felt more like chains than accolades, exposing the hollow nature of the facade he maintained. Their narratives intertwined in an urgent dance, each heartbeat echoing the discovery of shared humanity. As the storm raged outside and her duties loomed in the background, Emma faced her own desperate craving for validation. Grappling with the weight of his distorted reality against her own unyielding sacrifices. Would tomorrow merely dawn with the same old struggles, and would he truly choose to empathize with her plight? The tension thickened like the snow accumulating outside, both trapped in a moment that surged with possibilities waiting for a spark that could transform them both. The air around them hummed with an energy neither had anticipated. Emma's heart raced as Jack finally met her gaze, the barriers of pride and resentment beginning to crumble. The vulnerability he displayed was entirely foreign to him, yet something about Emma's quiet strength coaxed him to share more. I built my empire thinking it would provide happiness, he admitted, voice tinged with a mix of confusion and revelation. "But all I feel is isolated." Emma nodded, understanding blooming within her. Her life as a nurse was relentless, but each act of kindness felt significant, a thread in a tapestry of shared human experience. "Every day, I see people fighting for hope," she spoke softly, a tremor of resolve weaving through her words. "But sometimes, I feel like I'm losing my own fight." Jack's brow furrowed as he processed her confession. Here he was in the midst of a personal crisis, revealing the shreds of his soul to someone whose existence he'd previously overlooked. The reality was pitiless. He'd chased after material success, only to find emptiness in its wake. For the first time, a glimpse of his own pain reflected in her eyes pushed back against his cultivated apathy. "Maybe we're more alike than we think," he mused, a flicker of acknowledgement crossing his features. The harsh exterior he clung to was melting, like the snow outside beginning to succumb to the warmth of the hospital's interior. It was a precarious moment, balancing on the edge of something profound yet frightening for both of them. An internal battle stirred within Emma. This moment stirred an unfamiliar urge in her, a desire to step out of her comfort zone and be seen, to articulate to Jack the yearning tucked deep within her soul. "I want to be a leader, not just a caregiver," she braved, the admission laden with the weight of her unvoiced ambitions. "But I feel invisible as I try to hold the world together." Was it truly that simple? The realization hit her. Her shyness had curtailed her voice, but this interaction, this raw honesty, offered a new route to her own self-discovery. The revelation sent ripples through her consciousness, expanding the boundaries of who she believed she could be. Jack's expression softened with comprehension, lighting a pathway toward connections unforeseen. "What if we both helped each other?" The proposition felt like a spark igniting in a darkened room. Would reaching for help be a sign of weakness, or a catalyst for change? His question hung in the air, filled with uncharted potential. Emma contemplated the implications of his words. She had always avoided asking for assistance, but perhaps she had been limiting herself in the process. "You mean, collaborate?" She replied hesitantly, piecing together a vision that was half-formed yet exhilarating. "Exactly," he urged, his excitement unmistakable. "You have the empathy I lack, and I have the resources to help elevate your voice." The path forward was intimidating, fraught with the fear of failure, but the thrill of possibility reframed her fears into budding dreams. She realized professional growth meant more than accolades, it required vulnerability and connectivity. Strengthened by this new alliance, this newfound camaraderie with Jack sparked a hope she desperately craved. But doubt still loomed in the recesses of her mind. Could she truly withstand the scrutiny that might follow? The initiative felt like a high-wire act without a safety net. And yet, staring down the jagged precipice of fear and aspiration, Emma understood, transformative moments were rarely easy. The storm outside began to subside, light tapering through the window as the world slowly shifted back to normality. But for Emma, this was the moment everything altered. With determination surging, she made her decision. The future called, and in reaching out toward Jack, she was sidestepping resignation, limping through the shadows of self-doubt toward the horizon of potential. As their conversation deepened, the door to possibility creaked open wider, setting the stage for a new chapter not only in their lives but in the lives they touched. Would they both dare embrace the changes ahead or fall back into the shadows from whence they came? Emma stepped out of the sterile confines of the hospital, a world of clinical precision and unending responsibility behind her. The air was crisp, a reminder that winter had yet to release its tight grip. Yet, in the corridor leading to the exit, a flicker of optimism warmed her. Today marked the first step toward accepting the partnership with Jack, a leap she had long deemed impossible. As she walked, her heart raced with anticipation, both thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. The prospect of collaboration tugged at the edge of her comfort zone. What if she failed? What if her desire to break free from her role as just a caregiver brought her nothing but disappointment? No. She had to push those thoughts aside. She'd seen firsthand how significant actions, no matter how small, could reshape lives. Her patients fought their battles every day, they sheathed their vulnerabilities in fragile armor, and it ignited a fire within her. What were her fears compared to their struggles? Determined, Emma began to map out her strategy. She envisioned a series of workshops to empower caregivers, utilizing her frontline experience to enhance their voices and skills. She pictured Jack at her side, encouraging the dialogue she sought to create an invaluable resource bridging the gap between leadership and empathy. That idea resonated deeply within her as she fiddled with her phone, drafting an outline for her proposal. The boldness of the message surprised her. Recognizing the strength in collaboration and acknowledging her own worth sent ripples of newfound confidence coursing through her veins. Around midday, she received a message from Jack. "Let us set a meeting to discuss our ideas. I want this to be real." The gravity of his words broke through any remaining hesitations. She had an ally, clarity rippled through her mind, cutting away remnants of self-doubt. They were embarking on a journey together, one that could potentially change her professional trajectory. As she prepared for the upcoming meeting, she replayed her conversation with Jack in her mind. Each moment of honesty deepened her understanding of both herself and him. She recalled the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, so dissimilar from the commanding CEO she had known. But this wasn't just about him or his resources. His openness mirrored her own desires for change, illuminating paths once shrouded in shadow. Emma realized that this partnership was not simply transactional, it was mutual growth. The challenge lay in what became of them both as they dared to step into new roles. As the days unfolded, Emma embraced her evolving identity, practicing her voice in small circles among her colleagues. Each interaction grew easier, the hesitations that once bound her unfurling like blossoms in early spring. She felt the urge to rise and speak, to motivate others, a leader emerging from the chrysalis of fear. But just as she began to bask in the glow of her transformation, the specter of opposition emerged, lurking in the corners of the hospital. Whispers of her ambitions crept into conversations, questioning her right to lead amidst the very profession that had anchored her. Detractors mocked her aspirations, wielding skepticism like a weapon. With every confrontation, Emma felt the old fragility return, a familiarity she had grappled with for so long. Was she strong enough to challenge the naysayers in her pursuit of growth? Jack had promised support, but it was Emma who needed to put on the armor of resolve against impending scrutiny. As she steeled herself for the next meeting with Jack, she tasted the urgency of her decision, to rise, not just for herself but for all those who felt unseen in their ambitions. The pressure intensified, demands rising like floodwaters. Just moments before stepping through the door, she caught her reflection in the glass panel beside her. The woman who gazed back was not simply Emma the nurse, she was becoming something more, something powerful. But as she turned the handle and stepped into the room, she sensed a shift in the air. The atmosphere throbbed with potential, yet a storm brewed on the horizon. Would Jack's alliance withstand the coming trials, or would hidden challenges force them apart? The moment felt precarious, teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Emma knew this was only the beginning, a journey that could either cement her burgeoning leadership or dismantle it before it had a chance to bloom. The room was charged with unspoken tension as Emma entered, her heart hammering in her chest. Jack sat at the table, a sea of notes and ideas spread before him, a potent reminder of what they were about to attempt. She took a deep breath, pushing aside the lingering doubts. This was her moment to articulate her vision for the workshops and to establish the roots of a partnership she believed could change the culture of care within the hospital. "Thank you for meeting with me," Emma began, her voice steady despite the whirlpool of anxiety beneath the surface. Jack nodded, his gaze intense, as if he could see right through her composure. She sensed the weight of their conversation, not just about the workshops but about her own professional metamorphosis. "Let us dive in," he urged, leaning forward, showing palpable interest. She unfolded her carefully prepared notes, speaking about the workshops, how they could empower caregivers, foster dialogue, and develop real change in patient care. As she spoke, something within her flickered alive. Each word unearthed the determination she had cultivated in the quiet glow of reflection. Jack interjected occasionally, providing insights and asking probing questions. The more they exchanged ideas, the more Emma's earlier fears dissipated. Here was someone willing to listen, to challenge her thoughts, and to build on her ideas without judgment. But a voice nagged in the back of her mind: was this too good to be true? As the meeting progressed, Emma's confidence grew alongside her vision. She began to cite specific statistics, crafting a narrative around the profound effects of caregiver empowerment on patient outcomes. Jack's enthusiasm mirrored her own. They were collaborating, a dynamic synergy evolving right before her eyes. But then, just as the atmosphere brimmed with potential, Jack's expression shifted, shadowing the warmth of their exchange. He leaned back, his hands steepled in contemplation. "Emma," he started cautiously, "I believe in what you're proposing, but there are some whispers about our partnership. People are apprehensive." The word struck Emma like ice water. Detractors, she had known they would rear their heads, yet she had hoped for immunity in Jack's support. Fear gripped her again. What if the whispers became an overwhelming tide against her? Would doubt encircle their project? Apprehensive about what? She pressed, forcing the tension to the forefront. Jack met her gaze with understanding, but with a caution she had not expected. "They question your capacity to lead, given your background. They see a nurse stepping into an administrative role, and it raises eyebrows. It's an uphill battle." A pang of frustration shot through her. She was a nurse, a caregiver, a person who gripped the frailty of life with every interaction. Why couldn't they see the value in that? Why did they perceive her vulnerabilities as weaknesses? No, this wasn't just a personal affront, it was a challenge wrapped in societal expectation, and Emma felt the pressure of that battleground settle upon her shoulders. "I refuse to be seen as less than capable," she declared, the steel creeping back into her voice. "If I can learn to fight for my patients, I can fight for myself, and for this project." The conviction in her own words surprised her, offering a glimmer of certainty amidst uncertainty. Jack leaned forward once more, his eyes ablaze with something akin to admiration. "Then we do this together, but we have to be strategic. You'll need allies within the staff to foster support. We can't just hope for acceptance, we have to earn it." Emma nodded slowly, knowing he was right. "I'll start reaching out, finding those who believe in what we're trying to achieve." There was a flicker of resolve igniting deep within her, a strategy taking shape amid the chaos. She would not cower in the shadows of skepticism. "Good," Jack replied. "We'll develop a plan to counteract the whispers. We both have our work cut out, but I think you're ready." As they moved past the earlier tension, Emma felt the dawn of a new chapter. She was not merely stepping into a partnership, she was ready to make her vision a reality and to face the impending storm. But the thought of those cynics loomed large, the impending confrontations promised to be challenging. With newfound determination, Emma stepped back into the hospital corridors, her mind racing with strategies and reflections. She was not only a survivor of the upheaval, she was a leader forging her path through adversity. Yet there remained an unsettling question, lurking just beneath the surface: could the shadows of doubt ultimately be transformed into a force that fortified her resolve, or would they morph into the very chains that bound her ambitions? As the day rolled on, another meeting drew closer, one that promised to redefine everything Emma had come to build. Would her courage hold strong under scrutiny, or would she falter when it mattered most? Emma walked into the break room, feeling the buzz of hospital life pulse around her. The chatter of co-workers was a stark contrast to the quiet determination building inside her. She had a dual mission now: to rally support for her workshops and to prove to doubters that her insights were not just valid but essential. Each interaction felt like a chess move in a game where she was still learning the rules. As she poured herself a cup of coffee, she caught sight of Lily, a fellow nurse whose fierce advocacy for patient care was well known among the staff. Emma hesitated. Approaching her would mean risking exposure to her own vulnerabilities. Yet, she felt drawn to Lily's relentless spirit. "Hey, Lily, do you have a minute?" Emma ventured, her voice tinged with a mix of apprehension and determination. "Of course, what's up?" Lily set down her own cup, her brow furrowing with curiosity. Emma inhaled deeply, choosing her words carefully. "I'm working on these workshops, aimed at empowering caregivers and improving patient care. But I need someone like you, someone who believes in what we can achieve together. I'm hitting some walls, and I was hoping you might lend your voice." Lily's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Of course. The more we involve caregivers in the conversation, the better it'll be for everyone. I've seen the difference it makes." Emma felt a sweep of relief. Their conversation flowed easily, ideas bouncing back and forth, amplifying the synergy that had sparked during her meeting with Jack. With each passing moment, her confidence surged. But with it came the challenge of maintaining that momentum. "Great, I'll arrange a meeting for us to discuss it further," Emma said, her mind whirling with the next steps. As they rejoined the hustle of the hospital, Emma couldn't shake off the echo of Jack's warnings. The apprehension voiced about her leadership loomed like a specter. But the more she immersed herself in productive conversations, the more equipped she felt to confront those who doubted her. The following day, Emma set up a meeting with Lily along with a few other influential colleagues. They gathered in a small conference room, and as Emma laid out her vision, she sensed a palpable shift. The notion of caregiver empowerment was quickly embraced, ideas flowing and evolving. Her heart raced as she noticed nodding heads. This was not simply her doing anymore, they were all invested. Yet, as she answered questions and fielded suggestions, a creeping fear checked her enthusiasm. Were they actually buying in, or were they just being polite? She focused on maintaining eye contact, trying to read their openness, even as the gnawing doubt took root within. "I know the skepticism surrounding my role comes from a good place," Emma said at one point, her voice firm yet vulnerable. "But I believe our experiences in the trenches can reshape how we think about patient care." Afterward, as the meeting adjourned, a colleague, Tom, pulled her aside. "Emma, I really appreciate your initiative. But are you ready for the backlash? It's going to come. People aren't going to sit back quietly if they think you're overstepping." His words chilled her, but deep down, she knew he was right. "I'm finding my footing still, but I'm committed, no matter the pushback," she replied, feeling the confidence drain momentarily as reality sank in. Tom nodded solemnly. "Just remember, you have to meet their doubts with your actions. If they see results, they can't dismiss you as easily." Emma absorbed his words, tension swirling in her gut. The need for tangible success loomed large, yet so did the very real possibility of failure. She vowed to herself, silently promising to turn that fear into fuel, not a chain. As the week wore on, Emma engaged even more with her colleagues, sharing data, crafting proposals, and solidifying alliances. Little victories began to accumulate, but still, the specter of opposition lingered. At home that night, she reflected on her journey thus far, penning down her thoughts. The act of writing grounded her amid the chaos, revealing both her progress and the unresolved tensions. One idea bled onto the page, a plan to present her vision at the next board meeting. But just as her hands settled to pen the final details, an impatient ping from her phone made her jump. It was a group chat flooded with messages of caution about the very meeting she was preparing for, the whispers Jack warned her about surfacing tangibly. The moment of truth was upon her. Would the whispers fuel her resolve, or would they lead to an unraveling? Emma took a deep breath, ready to face the storm head-on. The path to transformation lay just before her, but it was riddled with challenges that could shake her at the core. Would she find the strength to stand firm, or would the tide of doubt sweep her away? Emma stared at her phone, the messages swirling like a storm cloud above her head. Her heart raced as she read through the concerns from her colleagues, a mix of skepticism and outright resistance to her workshop proposal. Each notification felt like a jab at her resolve. Was it too ambitious to think she could reshape their perception of care? She placed the phone down and let the silence envelop her. The room, usually a safe haven, felt claustrophobic. The walls seemed to close in, amplified by the echoes of Tom's warning from the day before. She could hear the whispers, the doubts, felt them creeping into her mind. What if they were right? What if she was overstepping? With a sudden intensity, Emma stood up and crossed to her laptop. The urge to retreat was strong, but she remembered Lily's enthusiastic support. That fire she'd seen in her eyes sparked something within her. Emma wanted to capture that energy and transform it into something tangible. She started drafting a new presentation, not just for the board meeting but imbued with her growing understanding of the importance of connection among caregivers. For hours, she poured herself into creating slides rich with data, stories from her own experiences, and testimonials from patients who thrived under excellent care. She reached out to Lily for input, and their shared enthusiasm morphed into a powerful alliance. As they collaborated, the conflicting messages of doubt began to fade. Emma could almost visualize her vision becoming a reality, a tangible gift for her co-workers and patients alike. Days passed in a blur of preparation. Each interaction with her colleagues gradually transformed her feelings of intimidation into an invigorating surge of purpose. The board meeting loomed closer, and with it, the anticipation: would they embrace her vision, or would the tide of skepticism drown it? The night before the meeting, Emma's nerves churned. Shadows of uncertainty danced in her mind, but they were countered by flashes of determination. She pulled out a notebook and began to write, a list of her motivations, a reminder of her core belief that nurses were the heart of healthcare. She felt stronger than she'd felt in a long time. She began to see her ability to influence change. When the morning of the meeting arrived, she donned her professional attire, a crisp white blouse paired with black slacks. In the mirror, she practiced the opening lines of her presentation, seeing conviction reflected in her own eyes. This was her moment. She would not shy away from the challenges ahead. Walking into the conference room, Emma noticed the familiar expressions of her peers. Some were warm, others skeptical, and a few remained indifferent. She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their expectations. This was it. As she began, Emma's voice trembled initially, but gradually steadied, filled with the staunch resolve that had grown within her. "I believe we can create a new conversation about patient care," she declared, her heart pounding as she engaged with the room. Questions arose, some challenging, but she leaned into them, meeting each inquiry with poise and insight. The skepticism they'd held melted moment by moment. When she concluded, applause erupted, loud and buoyant. It was a moment she had only dreamed of, yet the ringing in her ears could not drown out the murmurs still circulating around her. After the meeting, while some lingered to offer congratulations, the shadows of doubt she feared emerged in the form of Jack's dispassionate gaze. He was not entirely convinced. "That was good, Emma," he said, forcing a smile, "but we'll see how it pans out. It's the follow-through that matters." With a twist in her gut, she felt the weight of his words. Her hard-fought victory hung in balance, and the journey was far from over. How would she transform this initial success into lasting change? As conversations continued to unfold around her, Emma stepped back, the echoes of doubt a mere undercurrent to her rising sense of purpose. The path ahead was still rocky, but she wouldn't face it unarmed. This was a pivotal moment, yet she sensed greater challenges looming. How could she convince Jack and those like him that her vision was not just a fleeting idea, but a critical necessity? Emma woke the next morning to a resolve as steady as a heartbeat. The air buzzed with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Tethered to her dreams of radical change, she envisioned herself navigating new challenges without succumbing to the whispers of doubt. She dove into the day with purpose, seeking out colleagues to foster dialogue around her proposal. Each interaction was a chance to reinforce her belief in transformative care. Emma approached Sophia, a seasoned nurse known for her no-nonsense approach. Can we talk about patient engagement strategies? She asked, inwardly cringing at her timid tone. Sophia paused, assessing Emma's earnestness. You know, Emma, it takes more than a presentation. If you want to inspire change, you have to embody it. Her words sank into Emma's heart, igniting both vulnerability and strength. Encouraged by Sophia's challenge, Emma shared her ideas about emotional intelligence in caretaking. To her surprise, Sophia nodded along, intrigued. They spent the next hour brainstorming methods to integrate these practices into their daily routines. The relief of having support swept over Emma like a tide, bolstering her resolve one encounter at a time. With each conversation, Emma realized that her colleagues, while skeptical, weren't impenetrable. Freelance discussions turned into collaborative sessions. Emma's confidence burgeoned, and she began planning a roundtable forum. Under her breath, she labeled it, Heart of Care. Yet, beneath her flourishing ambitions lay a shadow of familiarity with failure that haunted her. Jack's earlier comment nagged persistently. The nagging voice of caution returned, piercing through her newfound confidence. How could she deploy her vision into actions that would resonate beyond an hour of discussion? The lurking threat of apathy loomed ever closer. Emma implemented the second part of her strategy. She initiated one-on-one meetings with key team members, sharing anecdotes from her experiences that showcased the power of empathy in nursing. During a lunch break, she cornered Tom, a big player on the team. Hey Tom, remember that patient we had last month, the one who turned a corner after a simple conversation? Yeah, it was impressive, he replied, his eyes briefly lighting up with curiosity. Emma leaned in, her voice earnest. It split the case in half for me. Just that moment when we listened to them, it made all the difference. I want everyone to experience that. She could see Tom soften. The words left her lips effortlessly, fueled by her burgeoning confidence. The more she engaged, the clearer her vision became. She started framing the follow-ups as personal stories, nurturing connections rather than just informative discussions. The social fabric slowly weaved itself around her ambitions. Colleagues began gathering in corners, discussing their experiences, and questioning the status quo of care practices. But as her influence grew, so did the shadows lurking in the periphery. A meeting loomed where Emma had been invited to present a more comprehensive plan to the leadership team. It was an opportunity, certainly, but fear tinged her excitement. Would Jack's skepticism resurface to undermine her progress? At the same time, she realized it was her chance to drive change into the heart of the organization. Emma pondered her next steps. How could she confront this new challenge while holding on to the threads of support she had begun to weave? In her quiet moments, she questioned whether she had the strength to continue pushing through doubt. Every ounce of her was stretched thin, with so much at stake if she faltered. The pressure felt immense, but the need for transformation fueled her determination further. As she prepared her thoughts for the meeting, the weight of purpose bore down heavier than before. Could she find a way to sway Jack's indifference and weave him into her narrative? The time had come to face not only her colleagues but also the deeper skeptic residing within herself. She needed to craft a strategy that was both compelling and inherently genuine. With this thought lingering heavily on her mind, her heart raced. The real journey was about to begin. Emma arrived early the next morning, the hum of fluorescent lights a stark contrast to the electrifying thoughts bouncing around her mind. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins as she made her way to the conference room. Today wasn't just another meeting, this was the moment she had been building up to. Gathering her notes, she tried to center herself, but her thoughts drifted to the anxieties she had pushed aside. What if her passion fell flat among seasoned executives? What if her ideas, however well-crafted, were met with skepticism? Jack's dismissive attitude loomed large, a ghost that hovered on the edge of her confidence. With shaky hands, she arranged her materials, focusing on the success stories she had gathered over the last few weeks. After weeks of discussions and collaborative brainstorming, she had tailored her presentation to include compelling anecdotes that illustrated the transformative power of empathy in patient care. Each story was not just a statistic, they were real lives turned around by listening, validating feelings, connecting. As the clock ticked toward the hour, Emma felt the onset of panic. She leaned against the cold wall, taking deep breaths. "You know these stories resonate," she whispered to herself. "You've seen the change." Her own affirmation washed away some of the uncertainty, igniting a flicker of determination in her heart. When the meeting began, the air buzzed with an uneasy energy. One by one, her colleagues filed in, their faces a mosaic of expressions, some curious, others indifferent. Jack sat towards the back, arms crossed, an impenetrable wall. Her heart raced at the thought of addressing him directly. Taking a deep breath, she launched into her presentation, weaving her stories into a narrative that highlighted the profound effects of compassion in healthcare. As she spoke, she locked eyes with individuals in the room, searching for connection. She noticed nodding from Sophia, a glimmer of intrigue from Tom, and even Jack. She pressed on, amplifying her delivery. At times, doubt crept in, trying to seep through her confident facade, but she reminded herself of the moments she had with her patients. She allowed those emotions to guide her words, channeling fear into passion. Midway through, she noticed Jack's expression shift. He appeared more contemplative than critical, and Emma seized the moment. "Jack, I know you've seen the metrics and the statistics. But let me share a personal experience, a patient who transformed not because of medicine alone, but because of a simple conversation." As she relayed the story, Emma felt a shocking sense of freedom. Her voice steadied, and she could see Jack's gaze sharpen. The energy in the room shifted, curiosity replacing skepticism. After finishing her presentation, she opened the floor for questions. "Your approach seems promising," Jack interjected, his tone somewhat softer than usual. "But how do you foresee implementing emotional intelligence training among a team with varying levels of engagement?" It was not the dismissal she feared, it was an opportunity. Taking another deep breath, Emma felt an affirmation swell within her. She addressed his concern with strategies she had already contemplated, confident in her understanding of both her vision and the reality of their work environment. Emma noticed more heads nodding in agreement, an unexpected rhythm of support building behind her. As the meeting came to an end, she realized she had not only presented her plan but confronted her internal narratives. Yes, Jack's skepticism lingered, but the fear that had shadowed her for so long was beginning to splinter. Was this what transformational leadership felt like? Yet as conversations picked up among colleagues, Emma spotted a shift in Jack's demeanor. His customary indifference seemed to falter as he began to engage in discussions. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Would he come around, or would he still find a reason to undermine her ideas? With her heart racing, Emma knew she had ignited something deeper, an awakening not just for her colleagues, but perhaps something within Jack that might soften his hardened exterior. Still, uncertainty lingered. As Emma left the room, she felt a rush of momentum. But the reality remained that she had merely whetted their appetites. The real test loomed ahead, the challenge of sustained change confronting her instincts and requiring the courage she was just starting to develop. What would it take to turn Jack from critic to champion? Emma knew she had to confront her next hurdle, ensuring that her message didn't fade into the background like a fleeting thought. The next few days passed in a blur for Emma, each moment feeling both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. She had crossed a threshold, pushing past the limits of her own self-doubt during the meeting, but lingering questions gnawed at her. The shifting dynamic with Jack rode a precarious line. She knew she had opened a door, but would he step through it or merely observe from the other side? Determined to maintain the momentum she'd built, Emma dedicated herself to further refining her proposal. Late nights became her norm as she dove deeper into research, seeking studies that could bolster her ideas about empathy in healthcare. Every statistic was an anchor, tying her emotional appeals to solid evidence. Little did she know that this commitment would lead her to an unexpected revelation about her own capabilities. One evening, while sifting through a particularly dense journal article, she hit a wall. Frustrated, she leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. The familiar voice of self-doubt whispered insidiously, "What are you even doing?" But instead of succumbing, Emma took a moment to reflect. What she lacked in experience, she made up for with her passion and unique perspective. This realization sparked a newfound resolve within her. She didn't need years of experience, her insights were forged from the front line of patient care. With a fresh sense of clarity, Emma reached out to her colleagues for informal feedback on her ideas. She crafted emails that poured her enthusiasm into clear, direct questions. The replies poured in, each response imbued with encouragement and suggestions that enhanced her proposal. She felt a growing network of allies forming, and each interaction revitalized her determination. However, her dialogue with Jack remained pivotal. He was the ally she needed most, yet uncertainty still clouded their interactions. Each time she passed him in the hallway, the brief exchanges felt like an enigmatic dance, agile and full of potential but utterly unresolved. Could he really be the champion she envisioned, or was he just indulging in curiosity for the time being? To test this theory, Emma devised a plan. She would invite Jack for a one-on-one discussion, a gamble that could either fortify their budding rapport or lay her vulnerabilities bare before a possible adversary. The day she sent the invitation, her stomach churned, navigating through waves of anxiety and anticipation. The meeting was set for a Tuesday afternoon. Emma rehearsed what she'd say, fretting over her wording. As the hour approached, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was different. This was not just about her ideas anymore, it was about forging a genuine connection with possibly the most influential figure in the room. When he arrived, Jack appeared slightly less aloof than usual, though his posture still radiated an air of skepticism. Emma felt a rush of adrenaline, activating her pulse in the silence. With a firm handshake, she initiated the discussion by thanking him for his past feedback and expressing her wish to explore their shared vision for patient care further. For the next hour, they danced through topics of compassion in healthcare, challenging metrics, and the realities of implementing change. Emma leaned into her stories, allowing her experiences to illustrate her points. Jack listened, but his brow furrowed intermittently, indicating his skepticism simmered just below the surface. "Emma, I get what you're saying, but the financial implications of empathy initiatives are significant," he replied, his tone both analytical and probing. "Yes, Jack," she countered, bolstered by her recent research. "But the long-term cost savings from reduced readmissions and improved patient satisfaction can offset those initial investments. I can show you data that supports this." As she presented her findings, Emma felt the shift in Jack's demeanor. The discussion became more than a debate, it started to feel like collaboration. They arranged future meetings to delve deeper, intertwining their ideas like threads connecting disparate pieces into a cohesive fabric. Yet, as Jack rose to leave, Emma noticed a flicker of doubt re-emerging in his expression. Had she convinced him of the merit and feasibility of her project? Or was this merely a polite exchange, a way to keep the peace? Emma's insides twisted with curiosity, holding her breath as she watched him turn the corner. She had taken a bold step forward, but the journey was only just beginning. What next would it take to ensure that Jack's skepticism evolved into belief, solidifying their partnership and transforming into a force for lasting change? A challenging question lingered in her mind: could she harness her emotional intelligence not only to appeal to the heart of her colleagues but to ignite the passion within them to champion this cause? A profound realization began to form together: perhaps they could redefine what it meant to lead with compassion in an often cold and detached environment. Emma stood at the edge of the bustling hospital corridor, a vibrant world alive around her, where once she had felt detached, like an observer peering through a window. Now, she was an active player, her heart pulsing with newfound vigor and purpose. Weeks of relentless effort had all led to this moment, the board meeting where she would unveil her vision of caregiver empowerment. Each interaction had fortified her resolve, helping her weave a support network that transcended skepticism. She had approached her colleagues, shared her dream, and transformed whispers of doubt into conversations laden with possibility. Today, she would show them how deeply she believed in the impact of her ideas. As she entered the conference room, her confidence radiated with every step. The once tense atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, the leadership team assembled to hear her proposition. Jack positioned himself among them, an anchor of scrutiny, yet she could sense an underlying willingness in his posture. She was ready, and for the first time, she embraced the potential for vulnerability, knowing that her ambition stemmed from empathy, not mere ambition. With each slide she introduced patient testimonials, care statistics, and compelling narratives. She felt the room's energy shift. Jack's gaze locked onto hers as she shared a story of a patient whose life had transformed through kindness and engagement. The stories she told weren't just abstract ideas, they were memories that illuminated the unmistakable link between compassion and healing. Creating an environment that nurtures emotional intelligence among caregivers is not merely a personal mission, it's essential for the future of patient care, she emphasized, her voice echoing with conviction. When she finished, applause erupted, a delicious moment savoring the tangible recognition she had long chased. From the back, she caught a glimpse of Jack. His eyes sparkled with something different now. It wasn't acceptance alone, it was an acknowledgement of the integrity of her vision. As the meeting concluded, Jack approached her, a faint smile breaking the stoic surface he often brought to their interactions. "You really did your homework, Emma. I underestimated your ability to connect the dots. You have a way of making your passion contagious." His words sparked a warmth within, validating months of growth and internal struggle. This wasn't merely about proving her capability to others, it was about claiming her place as a leader. Days turned into weeks, and Emma breathed life into her workshops, aligning her colleagues across departments. Each session drew larger crowds, turning skepticism into camaraderie. Jack, having embraced his role as a collaborator, lent his insights and resources to fortify the initiative. The undeniable transformation radiated not just from Emma, but from those around her. Nurses found their voices, fostering dialogues that had long floundered in the hallways. Her workshops didn't just inspire caregivers, they created a culture of understanding and engagement that rippled through the hospital. Through this shared journey, Emma began to fulfill her deepest aspirations, evolving from a shy nurse into a recognized leader, the very identity she had long yearned for. Recognition came as the hospital administration acknowledged her initiatives. Grant applications she worked on for the empowerment program were approved, and funding was allocated to weave the principles of empathy into the very fabric of care at her institution. That restless yearning for validation had transformed into deep satisfaction, a conviction forged through the trust of her peers and the successful impact of her work. The nerves she once felt were replaced by solid confidence, each achievement chipping away also at the lingering shadows of self-doubt. Jack, now supportive and engaged, recognized Emma's efforts in front of the entire staff during a monthly assembly. "What Emma has initiated is not just innovative, it's vital. Her courage to speak up and claim her role is an inspiration." The applause from her colleagues felt like the collective acknowledgement of her journey, a tribute to her transformation. Finally, gazing into the mirror, Emma saw not just the nurse she had always been, but a powerful leader. Her reflection shone with the light of earned recognition. She had conquered her fears, forged a path for herself and others, and proved that compassion belongs at the forefront of care. This was her achievement, a legacy built not only on her journey but on the impact she would continue to make. Now, dear readers, this is where you must take action. If this story resonated with you, you need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, as it truly makes a difference in reaching others. Your voice matters. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about Emma's transformative story. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, and together, let us inspire change.